Welcome to Down South. I'm Eddison Sookoo, and today I'm pleased to have with us Mr. James Liwa. Mr. Liwa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Mr. Liwa, how did you get started? You're a San Fernando man?
Yes, they tell me I was born in San Fernando, somewhere on Coffee Street. And
Early schooling? Early schooling?
Yes, I was educated at San Fernando Government School, which was a sort of boys and girls thing at the time.
But from there, how did you get to secondary school at that time?
I got a bursary because my parents were very poor, and they couldn't afford to send me to secondary school. So I happened to get a bursary. I'm not sure whether it was one donated by Lee at the time, who was a philanthropist and, you know, did that kind of community service.
So, and this was based on the results of...
On the results of
exam?
Yes, the entrance exam.
The entrance exam to Naparima College.
Yeah.
At that time, there were just two schools in the south that offered this service, Naparima College and Presentation. And on the basis of the results at NAPS, you were awarded, would it be tuition fees for your duration at the school?
At the school, yes.
So this would have meant for 5 or 7 years, as the case may be.
Yes.
Now, as an Naparima student, did you find that there was some kind of direction that was being given to your life, even then at Form 1, that would have pointed to where you...
Well, it was a very exciting time in secondary school, you know, to make that leap from primary to secondary. And I always, even in primary school, I had an interest in literature. And I found a lot of fulfillment at NAPS, the teachers, particularly one, Ralph Laltu, who is a noted educationist, teacher and so on. I think he became principal of QRC at one time. He, in sixth form particularly, he cultivated, or at least created in students a love of literature. And that has always been my chief love in life, actually.
After your years as a student at NAPS, you went on to Jamaica.
Yes.
That was the only university available in the Caribbean at the time. St. Augustine was not at all.
The university in Jamaica was just about starting, actually. I think I was there from the second year or second or third year, when the arts section. It started as a medical university.
Right.
And then the sciences were added, and then the arts. But so
I recall that you just said a while ago that you didn't come from the best of financially endowed families and so on. And how then were you able to get to UE from NAPS? You taught at NAPS for 1 year, was it? Was
yes,
it that 1 year salary was enough to see you through to UE?
No, it wasn't. It was interesting how I came into teaching. When I was due to leave, I had to find a job, and of course the oil fields in the south was a thing where most people.
Texaco was the company at Pointe-a-Pierre.
Yes, Pointe-a-Pierre. And I applied there.
No, tell me
one of these apprenticeships.
The apprenticeships, you applied for that?
Yes, because that was what was available. And most people said, well, you know, that's what you should do. So, but my English teacher, Stilal too, heard about this. And he somehow felt that I would be a good teacher. I don't know how he arrived at this decision, but he invited me to come, and he spoke to the principal, who was Reverend Lute, and they offered me a job.
Was it Reverend Lute at the time, or Reverend
sorry, not Reverend Lute. It was Walls at the time. And they offered me the job, so I came in. And I worked for about a year or two at teaching at NAPS. And then I applied for this UE scholarship.
The UE scholarship.
Open scholarship, and I got it and went to do the arts honor studies at UE in Jamaica.
And again, I would take it that your focus was in English language and literature.
English, yes.
Was there a focus
on
on
my main
West?
subject? Actually, I studied history and Latin there. You had to do 3 subjects. But halfway through my course, they started an honors English program. and I switched to that.
This would have meant an additional year.
An additional year.
During this exposure there, I take it that that's where you got your interest in drama.
No, my interest in drama started before going to UE. Reverend Walls used to have, every year, he and his wife, they had a little concert for the sixth formers, and we were invited, to celebrate, the end of the year, Christmas and so on. And we were expected to do little skits and sing and that kind of thing. It was fun, and the teachers would join us in that. And somehow I got involved in the production of little plays and skits for these concerts, and I kind of liked it, and that was the start of something. And when I got to UE, the University Players was functioning, and I immediately joined that.
I guess it was there that you met Mavis.
My wife, yes, and she was, if I may say so, quite a good actress, and she was heavily involved in that group. And I came under the influence of Errol Hill, who had gone to England and studied drama. And when he returned to take up his job as an extramural tutor with UE, he worked for, I think, a couple of years in Jamaica. And he came and helped us. He directed plays with us and, taught us some of the rudiments of drama and that kind of thing. And he was an influence, which encouraged me to direct plays, and so I continued.
So from Jamaica, I take it that you, upon graduation, you came right back to Trinidad and...
Yes. The principalship, Reverend Walls had retired by then, and Reverend Lute was in charge. He had done, I think, a year as principal, or a year or two, Knox College in Jamaica, and he was in charge. And then he heard that I was returning, and he was looking for teachers, and he invited myself, and now I have to come back and teach here.
Stay with us, we'll be right back, and we'll continue our discussions with Mr. James Lewa. Welcome back to my guest, Mr. James Lewa. Mr. Lewa, at Naparima College, after a few years of teaching, you became vice principal.
Yes.
I can't remember exactly how that happened. Was there a change in administration or a change in
yes,
board focus or something?
Yes, there was a change in administration. After Reverend Lute left, the feeling seemed to be that we should appoint a member of the clergy still, but a local person, and Reverend James Ryan was appointed. He served for a few years, and then he left, so the principalship came over, and also the vice principalship. So Dr. Mackenzie was appointed principal, and I became the vice principal.
I would like to think that that was the first time in the history of Naparima College that there were two leaders on staff, principal and vice principal, who had a background in education. Because if I remember rightly, you qualified from UB as...
Yes, I got the teacher's diploma there, diploma in education, yes. You're probably right.
While at NAPS, I know, of course, that you continued your interest and the school's interest in drama. You fostered that among all the students. But how did that spread to other schools in the community?
Well, I started the Secondary Schools Drama Association, which I knew about in Jamaica. They had a thriving association there functioning. And I got the idea, and I said, why not here in Trinidad? And so it started.
Did you have a strong support in the community?
Well, people seem to think that it was a good idea, and we started with, I think, about 5 schools in San Fernando. And over the years, it has spread to include all the schools. It's now a national thing. And they're doing marvelous work. After I left.
Well, they were doing very good work even while you were there. I remember
the excitement.
I remember the excitement. For the first time, schools were involved not just in acting out something, but using the bowl and using a good theatre.
Yes, we were fortunate, I think it was in 1962, I think, to have the bowl built. This was after a lot of campaigning, of course. Queen's Hall was being built, and we in the South felt we needed something as well. So I remember Mr. Robert Montano and Ms. Abdul were on a committee, and they were asked to raise funds to build this Southern theatre. And government came in and built it, and we were extremely happy because before that there was no place to put on. You had to use a school hall or cinema. I think it was Empire Cinema, and you know, not designed for theatre. And now we had the bowl, and that gave a great fillip to the arts.
Can you tell us something about the little workshops that were set up in the bowl? Because I remember spaces designed for workshops.
The idea was to provide some facilities for dance and other activities, because there was nothing else in the community. And I think the bowl provided that kind of facility and function. So that it wasn't only that, this bowl was a social center too for weddings and dances, and the community came to love the bowl as their place where they could, you know, meet socially and come to see theatre and all that kind of thing.
Did you serve at any time at all as a member of the board?
Yes, I served on a few occasions, and the last time I was chairman of the board, about 3 or 4 years ago.
Was there a particular focus for the board
at that point, we needed to rebuild the facilities outside of the theatre, the dressing rooms, and you know, that kind of thing. So my vision was to try and improve the facilities and make the bowl truly an art center. This meant including the visual arts, because although the bowl functioned for so many years, there was little attention paid to the visual arts, and there were no facilities for that. You know, things like sculpture and ceramics and film, all the visual arts, in fact. So we thought that we would at least try to provide those facilities in the new bowl.
But at the same time, you had an arts center going in San Fernando?
Well, the art center was, I had started the Arts Council, San Fernando Arts Council. And this comprised all the groups, all the art groups. And we needed a home.
So on this council you had representation from all the different art groups, which is quite different from the bowl board type of representation.
Yes, the bowl is a government function, but this was the community itself. These are the artists themselves coming together and working to the improvement of the arts. This was the idea. The Arts Council was supposed to be a lobby group. It was supposed to take care of the artists and their needs and keep the focus on the arts and developing the arts.
How did you acquire that land and so on? It was a piece of property or something?
It was a government building, one of the old houses, I think, residential area. And we were lucky to have the support of Errol Mahabir, who was the representative for San Fernando. He became interested, and he actually arranged for us to get that property. And he also was working to help us raise funds to build the art center. He made a great contribution.
If I remember rightly, the design of the building was done by one of your associates.
Willie Chen. Finally, we had got an artist or two to try to architect and so on to try to design it, but it was either too expensive and that kind of thing. So eventually we settled Willie Chen, because all he did was design a simple structure which we could afford to build, and we did that. And now it needs a lot of equipment and extension and so on. But I suppose we will get there eventually.
What with the plans for reworking the entire area of the bowl and allowing facilities for all the arts, including film and so on, isn't there a bit of redundancy there, or you have this other?
No, we
some
can't compete with the
competition or
bowl.
something?
We don't have the resources and the money and so on. It's a question of scale. This was mainly intended to be like a home for the art groups themselves, and it is a community effort rather than a government-sponsored thing. And it was meant to compete, in a sense, to complement what was going on at the bowl, because the need was great. Those are the years when there were a lot of dramatic activity in drama and dance and music and all the arts were functioning.
But even now that there isn't that much activity, what's the situation with the?
Well, the bowl has been
Center
shut
now?
down, and I think this has contributed to the decline of the arts in San Fernando, and I don't know how long they are going to take to rebuild the bowl, because I don't think they've even got around to a design yet. So the art center is proving useful in the sense that it's the only place, although it is badly equipped and inadequate and so on. But the idea is, as I said, not to compete with the bowl, but to provide another space. In most cities, you have not only one theater, you have several theaters and several facilities
some
for all kinds of activities.
Yeah, some of them are
And this is
specialist
what I would
centers.
like to see happening in Port of Spain, in San Fernando, all the cities, that you should have many theaters. This is what I would like. But nobody seems to be working in that direction.
We'll be right back. You'll join us again as we continue with Mr. James Lever. Welcome back as we continue discussions with my guest, Mr. James Lever. Mr. Lever, you've had an experience representing Trinidad at one of the early trade exhibitions. I believe it might be one of the first ones of that kind in Canada.
Expo 67 in Montreal.
Yes,
1967. I was chosen as stage manager for that, and lived in Montreal through about 5 months when the expo. It was a great experience because it was my first stint as working professionally in the theatre.
And I remember the impact that our booth had on the Canadian public, especially on the French. Very strong impact.
Most people saw it as the beginnings of not folk theatre, but national folk company of Trinidad, and they thought that it should have been preserved and kept going for the country as a whole. But that was not to be. We all disbanded, and that was the end of that.
But not quite. There was another exhibition some years later in Switzerland, Lausanne. I take
Lausanne, yes, a trade exhibition. Yes, I was chosen to go there too, and also to Festac. I went as a visitor. The African, people getting together and doing their thing in the festival in Nigeria.
When you consider such a rich experience in the performing arts and your life's dedication to the performing arts, how do you respond to what's happening now?
Well, these days I'm a worried man, and I feel almost as if all my work has been, led to a certain kind of futility, because we seem to have reached a low period in the arts, particularly in San Fernando. We were commenting earlier about the glory days of 1960, 70, 80, when the arts are really thriving in San Fernando. There's a lot of work going on, a lot of interesting characters like Ralph Mirage, Devendra Dukhi, Renaud Bassin, all these
going
people.
all the way back to Horace James too, who got into television and so on.
Yes, of course. And
Fred Thornhill, who got into television as well in a different way. But
right. All these characters seem to have come out of San Fernando, and there was a great deal of excitement. In fact, at one point, San Fernando was considered the cultural capital of Trinidad because so much was going on. And these days, I'm afraid to say, we have, really declined. I don't know what is the reason for it. It may be, as you say, I mentioned earlier, too much television, or maybe just lack of government support. I feel that, of course, these things occur in cycles. You reach a high point and then you decline.
But Mr. Lewa,
But to sustain.
Early on, I gathered from what you were telling me early on, about 10 minutes ago, that your early life, an early secondary school experience, led to a kind of thirst and a kind of longing for the arts and the performing arts.
Mm-hmm.
I would take it then that many people are missing that kind of experience in today's education system.
Well, they have tried to one step forward, because I remember when I was vice principal at NAPSM for a short time, I tried to hire a young lady from England to come and teach drama. And the then minister said he doesn't see the value of this, and he doesn't see this ever happening.
Rosemary Wise was her name.
Rosemary Wise.
The end result of that, her hiring and her being on staff at Naparima College, was the production of a play called Tears in the Guile. Am I right?
Right.
Which won every award except Best Female Actress.
Really?
That's correct. And many of those people went on late on in life to be involved in careers, either in theatre or on the periphery of theatre.
Yes. So what they have done is, because of the hard work of Victor Edwards and his team, who are now in charge of the Secondary School Drama Association, they've managed, beating on the doors for many years, to get government to agree to have formally a drama element in the curriculum.
And we now have
We now have that.
So
that's a plus.
It's a start, yes.
But so much more remains to be done.
I don't think the drama can exist without the teaching of literature and the appreciation of literature.
And even that is on decline, because most people, students themselves and parents, of course, they don't see the value of literature.
Oh, you pass English and maths, and that's it.
Exactly. Or the sciences. They see they can make a career in law and economics and business and so on. But what can you do with literature is a question they always ask. They don't see it. They see it in terms of economics, and they don't see the value. It's nothing that you can, as it were, take to the bank. So that's dying.
But that is an unfortunate untruth.
Of course it is. Of course it is. We who love literature know that the great value of it.
But there's monetary value in it as well. It depends upon how it is marketed, to whom it is marketed. It isn't that writers are going to be starving people. It isn't that painters, artists, and sculptors and musicians have to be starving people. That isn't so at all.
But in a society which is indifferent to the value of the arts,
definitely.
You're up. You have to struggle.
We will all starve.
And that's the problem.
But we are starving in more ways than one, you see. We are not just starving because we don't have money in our pockets to buy food. There's another starvation and deep thirst that I would like to propound that leads to the ruination of a civilization.
We are in trouble. Yes, without culture, I think we are rudderless, and there's no feeling, and that's why you can have all the barbarism that's going on now in the society, all the killings and so on, because people don't value life and they don't see the importance of the finer things of life.
I do hope that in time to come, in as short a time as possible, maybe some of us could get together. And those are like us, you, myself, and some others who might be interested through the Creative Arts Center to do some sort of program there that would lead to the beginning of a revival.
Yes.
And I don't think, knowing you as I do, I don't think you're ever the person to give up hope entirely, although you may despair.
Yes. No, I haven't given up hope. I still work with the San Fernando Theatre Workshop, but we are finding it more difficult these days to put on a production. can't get people to act, you can't get support of the business community. It's becoming more difficult, and this is why I'm saying I have a sense of almost a failing, because all my efforts have been to try to get more people involved in the arts and make it easier for the artists to survive and thrive. And I'm seeing the opposite happening. We seem to be going backwards instead of forwards.
We are pleased to have Mr. James Lever on the program. I'd like to wish him continued success as a teacher and a proponent of the arts of theatre. Thanks very much for being on the program, Mr. Lever.
Pleasure to be here.